Hello, hello. Sorry, as soon as I hit the button to go live, I got a very important message. But hey, my name is D Lavender. Sometimes I go by Lady Lavender, depends on how you know me. Um, in addition to being a musician and an educator, I am also a business owner. So you might know me through, Lady Lavender with Lady Lavender's Luxe Atelier, where I sell $5 jewelry. But that's not what this is about today. Today, I am just sharing some chords to a popular worship song. I have a couple of students who are working on the song, and I told them I would go ahead and put a video up so they can learn the guitar chords. So if you have your guitar, feel free to pull that on out. We're going to be in the key of G today. So we only have four chords for the song. The song is My Worship by Phil Thompson, a wonderful, wonderful worship song. um, the chords are going to be G major, E minor, C major, and D7. All right. Those are the four chords for the most part. There are some parts where we might throw in A minor, but that's going to be, I believe, at the very last segment of the song. All right. So very simple. If you've never heard the song, I'll just kind of play through a little bit and we'll see where we are. All right. So in the key of G, your first chord is going to be E minor. All right. And of course, if you want to use a capo, you absolutely could using the same chord structures, just move it up depending on how high you want to move the key to. All right. So E minor, and it's in 6/8, and it goes to D, and then resolves to the 1, which is G major. Then the next chord is going to be C major. This is where that optional A minor is, to D7 or D major, either or is fine, and G major. So that's the whole progression, at least for the beginning part. So if you've never heard the song before, this is what it sounds like. You, Lord, you are worthy, and no one can worship you for me. E minor. For all the things you've done for me. A minor, C, and no one, A minor, can worship you for me. So I'll do that again. You, Lord, you are worthy. E minor, D to G. Then we see, no one, A minor, worship you for me. D to G. Back to E minor. For all the things you've done for me, and no one can worship you for me. So you see on that second time, you can add in that going from C, no one, both of the phrases start with the same thing. So, and no one, right? So C, just bring that third finger down to make A minor, then go ahead to your regular D and then back to G. All right. So E minor, D, G, right? Then you've got C. So this finger is up, so I can place it right down and go right to C. Optional A minor, D, and then back to G. All right. So I'll play it without that optional A minor so you can hear it. All right, so it's such a subtle difference. No one worship you for me, or no one can worship you for me. right? So either or, you can choose there. All right, so that's the verse. The verse only happens twice, so each verse is a full cycle, 2 cycles all the way through. And then you go to the main chorus, which is the main repeating part of the song. So you're starting on G because you're already there. Worship you for me, right? You're ending on the G. So you stay there. Here's my word. Then you move over to C major, ship, for the second part of the word worship. Then the next part is all of my E minor, worship, to D. Repeat that. Receive my worship, G to C, all of my worship, E minor to D. That's the whole thing, all right? So here it is in time. Here's my worship, all of my worship. Receive my worship, all of my worship. I'll do it again. Here's my worship, G to C, all of my worship, E minor to D. Receive my worship, G to C, all of my worship, E minor to D. All right? So that's it. You can repeat that as many times as your heart desires. You can go back into the verse with that E minor. Lord, you are worthy, and no one can worship you for me. That's with the optional A minor. Back to E minor. For all the things you've done for me. See? And no one can worship you for me. Going to the chorus. Here's my worship, all of my worship. Receive my worship, all of my worship. One more time. Here's my worship, all of my worship. Receive my worship. You can go right to the C if you want. All of my worship. E minor to D. And then there's a vamp part that happens at the end, and that includes all of our chords. So starting with E minor, then to D, then to G major. All right, so it's, and I will not be silent. I will always worship you. All right, so I'll talk through it. So that's that E minor that we started. And I will, on the word not be, on the word be, you're going down to D. You're going to hit D on the word be. I will not be silent. Silent, you go to G. I will, going to C, always. A minor, this is fast, one strum on E minor, and then you finish out the phrase on D. So I'll go back to I will always. I will always worship you. See how we did that? All right, so I'll play the whole thing in timing, starting with E minor to D to G major. Whoa, what are my fingers doing? I will not be silent. I will see always. A minor, E minor, shub, D. You got it? All right, here we go one more time. And I will not be silent. I will always worship you. Then you just repeat that whole thing. E minor. As long as I am breathing, I will always worship you. All right. And then from there, you can repeat that section, or you can go back to here's my worship, the chorus. All of my worship, receive my worship, all of my worship, right? I've also heard another part where you just repeat when you go to the I will not be silent. There's all kinds of wonderful arrangements out there. Um, I love when they tag on the ending and just kind of repeat a few things so you can really get into it. You can change up some of the grooves there. That's when you get to kind of have some fun with rhythms. All right. So I'll give you an example of that when we're going from and I will not be silent. I will always worship you. As long as I am breathing, I will always worship you. Here's the repeat. I will always worship you. So that's I will see always A minor, E minor, D major, you. Okay, so just repeating that. So I will happens on that D. Okay, I will always worship you. I will always worship you. You can also just stay right on that C and move to the D instead of doing the C to the A minor, right? So I will always worship you. Another idea is to repeat, and this is for my worship leaders if you sometimes get stuck. So you can actually repeat the word always, always. I on the C will always go to D. Always, always C. Always, always D. Always, always, right? Now, this is when you can have some fun with your strumming. So you can use some palm muting. You can do whatever whatever works for you. If you use a pick and you seem to be more effective with that, that's also a great idea. All right. So, for example, I will always, 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 always. You hear I'm doing that? Always. Right? Always. Right? So practice that. Practice being able to actually use your, I'm muting with the meaty part of my hand while also making sure my nails are actually hitting the strings. All right. All right. So that's essentially what I'm doing. The guitar started slipping, so had to reel it in. All right. So if you have any questions, of course, hit me up in the comments. I'm always happy to help. I believe I've spelled out all the chords. This is in the key of G major. If the key is a little low for you, that's fine. You can use a capo, or you can translate it or transcribe it into the key of your choice. Once you've identified what the number system is, so if you work with, solfege or the number system, is pretty easy to figure out. G being the root or one or do. So our chords are essentially 1 6 2 5 1 for the most part. So it starts off on 6 minor, which is your E minor, and then it moves on over to your the 5 of the key, which is your sol, right? So that is G. No, it is not. It is D. Excuse me. D major or D7, either or would sound great there because it's working as the 5th. So it can be dominant. Of course, you know you have the root, which is G major. Your 4 is going to be C, right? So the 4th, do, re, mi, fa, that's the 4th scale degree. That's C. We already talked about E minor. We talked about D. We talked about D. We talked about G. Those are all the chords, okay? So have fun with that. Let me know if you, again, have any questions or if there are any other songs that you would like to know how to play the chords to. And that's it. All right. You all take care.